Hello students, I am Tulika Banerjee. Today I bring you the next learning episode in BSc Forensic Science on an important unit of paper question document, that is disguised writing. In this episode, we will discuss about handwriting analysis and the characteristic features of handwriting. In addition to it, you will also be told about disguised handwriting, the purpose and features. Moreover, in this lecture, you will also get to know about disguised and imitated handwriting. We will wind up this module by studying how disguised handwriting can be recognized and with a conclusion. So, let us have a look at the modules which we will be learning today. Our first module is regarding handwriting analysis. Module 2 is regarding introduction to disguised handwriting. Module 3 is regarding purpose of disguise in handwriting. Module 4, features of disguised handwriting. Module 5, disguised handwriting and imitated handwriting. Module 6, recognition of disguised handwriting. And Module 7 is the conclusion. Dear students, let us start with our today's lecture on disguised writing with a brief discussion on handwriting analysis. Writing can be said as the visual speech, or in other way the talking paper. The writing is very much like a personal detail of a person because it includes all those slight moves, actions, etc. which he or she makes during the process of writing. And since every person cannot follow the same pattern of moves and actions, so it forms the basis that handwriting can be included in the group of personal details of a person. Handwriting is a very sensitive element of a person's personality. Each and every word a writer uses is very much influenced by what he experiences at the time of writing that particular line, phrase or a speech, the topic on which he is writing, and the time he has to complete his work. Whether he is excited at the time of writing the text, or he is sad, or he is weak, etc. Handwriting is a neuromuscular task. It involves coordination between the brain and the muscles of hand. It is an individualistic characteristic. That is, handwriting is unique in nature and no two individuals will have exactly the same handwriting. So, with this brief detailing on handwriting, let us now study about the characteristic features of handwriting. Following are the characteristic features of handwriting. First is line quality. It refers to the fact that whether the letters are in a flow or are shaky and erratic. Spacing. It refers to whether the letters are equally spaced or not. Size consistency. It refers to the ratio of the height to width of the letters in handwriting being consistent or not. Continuity. It refers to the fact that whether the writing is continuous or does it consists of pen lifts, that is it discontinuous? Connecting letters. It refers to the continuity between the capital and the lowercase letters. Completion of letters. It refers to whether the letters are completely formed or not. Cursive and printed letters. It refers to whether the letters are printed, cursive or both. Then we have pen pressure. Pen pressure refers to the fact that whether equal pressure is applied on both the upward as well as the downward strokes. Slant. Whether the slant, that is the slope of handwriting, is left, right or variable. Line habits. Whether the writing is above or below or on the line. Disguised handwriting is the willful modification of a person's own handwriting for the purpose of concealing his or her identity. Chambers' 20th Century Dictionary defines disguise as a change in the appearance in order to conceal the identity and to prepare a false appearance. Hence, disguised handwriting may be defined as an intentional alteration in the appearance of handwriting or signature to conceal the natural writing of an individual in order to defy identification. In simpler words, it is the alteration of the appearance of handwriting by assuming another style of writing so as to conceal one's normal writing style. In disguised writing, the efforts of the writer are directed towards hiding his or her personal characteristics. Nowadays, a person can be convicted of forgery solely on the basis of handwriting testimony. This fact motivates criminals to disguise their handwriting in an attempt to evade justice. Success in concealing one's handwriting by escaping detection depends on the extent of modification of one's handwriting, the amount of writing in question, the available material for comparison, and the competency of the questioned document expert. Since so many factors play a role in the successful disguise, studies show that most attempts at disguise are neither consistent nor successful. Most people have an impression that disguised handwriting means graphic writing, that is, writing consisting of letters which are distorted in shape and size, as often found in blackmail letters, kidnap notes, anonymous letters, etc. However, disguised handwriting is used much more frequently in day-to-day life, like for the passing of fictitious checks, etc. A good disguised handwriting is one which prevents suspicion by not only keeping the writer's identity anonymous, but also by appearing to be his or her natural writing. Disguised handwriting is the product of a number of controlling factors, and its success is directly related to the skill, patience, practice and imagination of the writer and the amount of writing involved. Following are the most common uses of disguised handwriting. First, for writing checks with the signature of fictitious persons. Second, to support stolen checks. For writing anonymous or pseudo-anonymous letters. For writing extortion letters, letters asking for ransom, blackmailing letters, etc. For submitting false handwriting standards, also known as specimen handwriting or exemplars, in order to mislead the investigation. For self-disguise, that is, signing with the intention of denying the signature later on. To prevent self-incrimination while committing financial or legal frauds. For graffiti, that is, scribbling, scratching or spraying illicitly on a wall or any other surface in a public place. First, a change in the slant, that is, slope of the handwriting. A change in the size of alphabets, numbers and punctuation marks, etc. A change in speed of writing so as to increase its legibility or illegibility. An indiscriminate use of capital and small letters. Use of incorrect spellings in order to mislead the examiner and to give a wrong impression of literacy or illiteracy. Introduction of tremors in handwriting, a change in the pictorial effect, that is the overall appearance of the writing. This is usually achieved by writing with the less accustomed hand. An introduction or elimination of embellishments, especially at the start of a new word. Use of abnormal spacing. A disguise is successful when the writing in question is very small. Most people are able to alter some of their writing habits and can successfully hide their identity in a small amount of writing, such as in the case of a single signature. However, they are unable to maintain a disguise when they have to write a large amount of material, such as the entire letter or several exemplar forms. However, it can be said that if a forger wishes to disguise a single signature, then his or her chances of being successful are much higher than when he or she wishes to disguise a full letter or note. This is because masking one's identity is much easier when the amount of writing is small. Some of the elements frequently found in disguised handwriting as identified by Ed Alford are listed here, have been discussed. Failure to change speed of execution, a change in the slant or slope, use of the awkward hand or the opposite hand, use of hand printing, a change in the size of handwriting, a change in the arrangement, a change in the angularity, a change in the spacing between letters, changes in spelling, altered starting strokes, altered terminal strokes, altered extensions, a change in style of the capital letters, a change in style of the lowercase letters, use of a circular I dot or period, changes in numerals, use of smooth and unbroken strokes invariably, use of misplaced and misshapen I dots and T crosses, use of letters tapered illegibly toward the end of words, a marked difference in pressure on upward strokes and downward strokes, use of delicate pressure at the beginning and ending strokes of letters. Reminder: in order to improve your own ability to recognize natural writing, keep in mind the characteristics that I have already discussed, especially the first 5. Now, there are the most effective methods of disguise that I will be discussing here. To write with increased pen pressure throughout, to avoid altering the formation of letters, to write with notable tremor throughout the write. A point to be noted here is that the mentioned methods not only distort the entire writing by making it tough for examination, but also create an appearance of simulation. Reminder: the more rapidly the writing is made, the more natural it is. Some people write rather slowly yet naturally, and therefore it requires a considerable amount of skill, knowledge and experience to differentiate between the natural writing of a semi-literate, illiterate person and an imitation of such a person's writing. Certain indications of a natural handwriting I will be discussing here. First is joining of initial letters or words, use of wide writing and spacing, use of simplified forms such as seen in capital letters, absence of initial strokes to certain letters, for example in case of A, F, H, T, U, V and W. Disguised handwriting and imitated handwriting. It is not only difficult but also impossible for an individual to materially change his or her writing habits. It is as difficult as incorporating in one hand 2 different styles of writing. Experiments have shown that it is not difficult for a skilled expert to reveal the identity of an individual if the writing material procured is sufficient for comparison. The main reason behind this is the fact that handwriting is the product of an individual's unconscious habits, and a man cannot retain consciousness for long. Secondly, a layman generally does not know how much about his or her writing characteristics, and therefore he or she tries to alter the outer forms of letters only. The comparison of these salient features helps a questioned document expert to trace out the real person and to detect the disguise. In disguised handwriting, the writer tries to give an appearance as unlike to his or her own natural handwriting to maximum extent possible, and also to have the disguised writing legible. In imitated writing, however, the writer tries to reproduce as perfectly as possible the handwriting of another person. The efforts in disguised handwriting fail due to inability of the writer to avoid his or her own unconscious and habitual or the natural characteristics. In imitated writing, the writer fails in two ways. He or she can neither avoid all of his or her unconscious habits, nor can he or she perfectly reproduce all the characteristics of the writing which are to be imitated. Also, the unhesitating and natural facility of the natural writing which is to be imitated cannot be assumed fully. It is generally found that the defendants deny the authenticity of their genuine signatures on the documents, example, checks, receipts, etc., signed by them, and when they are asked to give specimens of their handwriting for the purpose of comparison with the signature in dispute, that is the question signature or the question sample. In majority of cases, these persons disguise or attempt to disguise the forms and pictorial effects of the letters according to their dexterity and imagination. Therefore, in such cases, the specimen writings obtained make the task of the question document expert difficult to a certain extent, and a sufficient number of non-requested samples are required to arrive at the correct conclusion. Hence, the more exemplars the expert obtains, the greater are the chances that some of the writings will contain some normal or natural characteristics of the writer. One of the best things a question document expert can do when taking exemplars is to have some non-requested specimens of the person to compare with the requested specimens. These will enable the expert to see if there are any obvious differences between these collected specimens and the requested writings. Studies show that when persons who are giving a disguised specimen are confronted with a naturally written specimen, they discontinue their attempt to disguise their handwriting. The sixth module is regarding recognition of disguised handwriting. Most of the time, the disguised writing is relatively simple in nature. In a majority of cases, the disguise in writing is achieved by merely changing the general pictorial effect of the writing, that is by changing the overall appearance of the writing. Since the pictorial effect depends on features like slope, rhythm, shading, fluency, letter design, etc. Hence, by changing these features, the overall pictorial effect of the handwriting can be changed. Disguised handwriting lacks fluency and rhythm. No matter how carefully the forger attempts to disguise his or her handwriting, the disguised handwriting will always show poor rhythm, that is smoothness, and almost a complete absence of fluency. A change in the slope introduced as disguise is never constant. A gross alteration in the slope is the most preferred method of disguise. However, the slope in such a handwriting will never be the same. That is, there will be instances in the disguised handwriting where the forger has written in his or her natural slope. This happens because one's natural characteristics of handwriting are hard to suppress. Disguised handwriting often contains letters with altered or modified designs. Altered design of letters is one of the most commonly found features in the case of disguised handwriting. Reminder: whenever the question document expert has any reason to believe that the handwriting sample in question has been disguised, a search should be made for detecting any kind of alterations in the design of letters. For example, a given questioned handwriting sample consists of a majority of E, which is made in the Greek style, but at some places E made in the conventional style are also encountered. In such a situation, there is no reason whatsoever for an individual to use the Greek style of making the English alphabet E throughout his or her writing and to switch to the conventional way of making E only in some of the places. This is only possible when the individual is trying to suppress his or her own natural handwriting characteristics, that is the conventional E, by disguising, that is using the Greek style E in his or her writing. Next is originality in disguised handwriting is very rarely found. Studies show that only about 1 person out of 9 can disguise his or her handwriting in such a manner that it is unrecognizable by a person who is familiar with it. Reminder: it takes less efforts and skill to disguise a poor handwriting by making it unrecognizable. Disguised handwriting often involves the use of block letters. Studies show that a majority of people resort to the use of block letters in order to disguise their handwriting. Although writing in block letters hinders the speed of the writer, but most people have the wrong notion that no effective comparison can be made between different specimens of writing consisting of block letters. As a result, they do not make any effort whatsoever to depart from their natural handwriting characteristics while writing in block letters and thus get caught easily. Next is use of size alteration in disguised handwriting. When the size of the disguised handwriting is compared with the size of the individual's normal handwriting, it is observed that most of the times there is a considerable difference between the two. In 50% of the cases, the size of the disguised handwriting was found to be increased. Reminder: however, sometimes the alteration in size may be by decreasing the size of the letters to such an extent that the writing becomes very small and the details get concealed considerably. In such cases, a photographic enlargement of the handwriting in question can be done in order to make the details clear for comparison purposes. Writing with the less accustomed hand. This is a commonly observed feature of disguised handwritings. The term unaccustomed hand or less accustomed hand refers to the hand which is used less by an individual. For example, the unaccustomed hand or less accustomed hand for a right-handed person will be his or her left hand. Similarly, for a left-handed person, the unaccustomed hand or less accustomed hand will be his or her right hand. Writings by the accustomed and the unaccustomed hand bear less resemblance. This is the main reason why it is used as a means of disguise. Reminder, disguise in handwriting is never consistent. Certain features of handwriting can never be disguised. These features include marginal habit, line spacing, etc. Conclusion. Handwriting is a very sensitive element of a person's personality. It is a neuromuscular task. It involves coordination between the brain and the muscles of the hand. It is an individual characteristic, that is, handwriting is unique in nature and no two individuals will have exactly the same handwriting. Disguised handwriting is the willful modification of a person's own handwriting for the purpose of concealing his or her identity. By studying certain features and comparing the sample and the questioned documents, disguise in handwriting can be identified. Main objectives of this lecture were to acquaint the learners about handwriting analysis and the characteristic features of handwriting. In addition to it, you were also told about disguised handwriting, the purpose and features. Moreover, in this lecture, you also got to know about disguised and imitated handwriting and how disguised handwriting can be recognized. Do keep in mind what we discussed today. I'll be back with one more lecture in this series. If you want to learn more and enhance your knowledge, you may log on to our website www.cec.nic.in for MCQ, quizzes, LORs, etc. Make sure you revise the modules frequently so that you master the topic well and take up the exercises. Thank you for your time today. I'll see you in the next lecture. Keep learning, work hard and do revise the chapter. Goodbye.